you look like we're really busy people or?
Good evening. This is One and the Same coming from the White Bear Studios of the Ramsey, Washington cable area. I am Judge Gary Bastian. I'm here tonight with co-host Diane Alshouse, a judge on the Ramsey County bench, who's with me tonight co-hosting in place of Judge Tilson. This is show 306, so if you're watching it, our topic tonight is JDAI, Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, and we have a panel tonight with us of some very interesting panelists. Diane, anything you want to jump in before I introduce our guests? Anything you want to say?
Well, it might be good just to tell the folks that this is part 2 of a series on JDAI, and this is number 306. So if they didn't catch, or if they have a chance to catch number 305 sometime, they'll get the first half of this program. But we're going to repeat some of the information again.
So they don't have to watch both. If they did, that'd be great. But if they don't, they'll have a full understanding. With me tonight, with us tonight, we have Russell Ballinger, who is a Community Engagement Director of Amicus. Russell, thanks for being here. He is the community member on the JDAI initiative, which again stands for the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. That's been operating in Ramsey County since 2005. Next is Tony Carter, who was elected in a special election in 2005 to the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. She is the first African American ever to serve on a county board in Minnesota. She has been one of our linchpins in the juvenile detention process and has been very involved. Through her efforts, we have done a lot of good work. Then we have James Payne, or Jim Payne as we know him. Jim is a national expert with the Annie Casey Foundation. He began his career as a district attorney in the New York County District Attorney's Office after graduating from New York University School of Law. He was New York City's chief juvenile prosecutor, and now, as I indicated, he works and is Minnesota's representative or coordinator or guardian angel, whatever it would be, for the JDAI process in Ramsey County, Dakota County, Hennepin County, and recently added St. Louis County. Then we have Sarah Walker, who is the Chief Operating Officer at 180 Degrees. It's a nonprofit organization that deals with high-risk youth and adults to provide intervention and support for youth and adults who are at risk or currently involved in the justice system. Sarah has a BA from Political Science and African American Studies from Carleton College, and she's a doctoral candidate, Department of Public Political Science at the University of Minnesota. Diana introduced as our co-host. She first took the bench in 2005. She had an extensive career in criminal justice. She recently, as a year ago, joined the juvenile justice team in Ramsey County, serving in the juvenile detention area. Also does family law in the special courts division. And finally, and last but not least, is almost a 40-year veteran of corrections, Michael Belton, who is currently the Deputy Director for the Ramsey County Juvenile Corrections Division within the Community Corrections Department. He is as I said, is the Deputy Director. He formerly was Hennepin County, and he's part of was a Bush Fellowship recipient in 2005, 2006 graduate of John F. Kennedy School of Government. As he indicates, is passionate in his pursuit of fair and equitable justice system for Ramsey County and the state of Minnesota. Thanks for being here. Thanks for giving up a Friday night to come in and talk about something, as you might be able to tell from the introduction, if not by the end of the show, something that is a very passionate topic for all of us. So thanks for being here, and let's go with, throw it to Diane, our lead off.
Well, since this is, we're going to repeat a few things we did in our first program just to make sure that those who didn't catch the first program know what we're talking about. We're here about JDAI, Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. Who would like to explain that?
I guess it's up to me.
All right.
The JDAI...
Everyone needs a national expert,
At times.
and you're it.
The JDAI is an initiative created by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, based in Baltimore, Maryland, that looks to create, I guess, the best word now for the system transformation in the juvenile justice system, to helping jurisdictions change their system to protect public safety while using secure detention appropriately and less, and finding
Maybe
better
we can put up the chart that shows the
alternatives.
jurisdictions.
Okay, great. Better alternatives for youth and better outcomes for youth. It operates in 104 jurisdictions, and some are statewide, as in Minnesota, and by statewide we mean there are multiple sites in the states. Some are just counties within certain states, but if you count in each individual county, it's 104 in the United States.
All right. Tony, how did you get involved in this process?
Um,
And what's your involvement now?
I consider myself to be a cheerleader.
Okay.
As a county commissioner, I am very concerned about the outcomes for all people in our county, in particular for our youth, as well as for public safety and the wise use of our dollars, which can be very, very limited for all purposes. As we began together to look at outcomes for juveniles in our detention center, we were finding that a large number of juveniles were being detained at a time when we had seen a downtick actually in juvenile crime, not just in Ramsey County, but this was occurring throughout the nation. And we had an opportunity to look at some work that was being done by this foundation, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, who has done some incredible work, incidentally, across many disciplines for young people, in particular disadvantaged youth and families. And as we saw some of the work that they were doing in jurisdictions across the country, we saw that some counties had been able to, where the phenomenon was increasing numbers in juvenile detention, actually reduce those numbers or start to reduce those numbers. We were driven in Ramsey County, and I said this in the show before, by a focus on disproportionate minority confinement, or the overrepresentation of juveniles of color within our detention center, where we were detaining a large number of juveniles in 2004, over 3,000 kids. We found that about 77-78% of those juveniles were juveniles of color. And it did seem to be very, very disproportionate to the population in Ramsey County. So that was the focus at the time when we began to look at it. I was elected in 2005, and already we had been contacted by the state DMC, or Disproportionate Minority Confinement Coordinator, to say, why don't you guys come and look at this with us and entertain the process of having a technical assistance grant from Annie E. Casey Foundation. It was attractive to us, particularly given what we were seeing in DMC, Disproportionate Minority Confinement. And so after a period of engagement at with our corrections department and at a board level, we did make a decision to look more closely at what we were doing and get into a process of determining how Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative could work for us, and began a partnership with Annie E. Casey.
As a public official, I would have been particularly proud of the involvement that we've had, not only from community, but also from the county board. This would be a